Hi everyone, welcome back to the educational content that we're covering as part of the OA class. This is week 2, so if you haven't already, flick back to week 1 and we kind of just discussed what is OA, how and why we experience the symptoms that we experience. This week we're going to be focusing on the importance of exercise. Okay, it's quite a large topic. We're going to be covering the importance of exercise not just for OA but also in general and specifically as we age through life as well. So what actually is exercise? So exercise or physical activity refers to all movement. This includes leisure time. So for example, if you go to the shops, you're doing your shopping, walking about shops, lifting things from top shelves, lifting things maybe from bottom shelf, obviously lifting your shopping bags on the way home as well can be quite heavy. Transport to get to and from places. So maybe if you're walking to a place or standing up on the bus, on the train, anything like that, or as part of your work. So if you work quite an active job, like a teacher or a construction worker, okay? The reason why we want to do exercise, okay, for general health to start with, is it can help prevent and manage diseases such as heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and several cancers, okay? And as we know previously, type 2 diabetes is one of the risk factors for arthritis, okay? And obviously we don't want any of the other stuff as well. And if that isn't enough motivation to get you to exercise, that last point certainly will be. So people who are inactive have 20 to 30% increased risk of death to those that are sufficiently active. Obviously, that really highlights the importance of exercise and why we should want to do it. Okay. On this slide, we go into some of the more smaller details about the benefits of exercise. And we're going to go through some of these together. Of course, this is only some of the benefits, and we wouldn't be able to go through all of them. We'd be here all day. So let's just go through a handful of these ones that we've put up on the screen for you. So if you go to, it helps with weight management. Okay, so obviously exercise burns calories. This can help either maintain your weight or lose weight. Okay. Again, if we lose weight, it's been shown to help reduce OA symptoms in regarding to the inflammation around the joint and of course the load going through the joint. It can also increase muscle mass, and with that increase in muscle mass can come a decrease of fat surrounding a specific joint. If you have that decrease of fat surrounding the joint due to either losing weight or obviously building the muscle, it can help reduce the inflammation localized to that joint. It encourages you to be social, and with being social and doing exercise at the same time, or one or the other, it releases endorphins. And endorphins, basically, they're thing that makes you happy. Okay, and obviously, if we're in a better mood or happier, we can have a decrease in pain. It helps manage stress. So stress is quite heavily linked with pain. So the more stress you have, the more pain you're going to have. So if we're able to decrease your stress, we're obviously able to decrease your pain. And then of course it improves your memory as well. So we don't just want to focus on keeping our body physically active, we want to focus on our mental health as well. And of course with an increase of blood flow all around the body, it can help with your memory as you get older. So on this slide, these are kind of the minimum recommendations. Of course you can do more than this, or if you're not at that level yet, you can slowly build up to these kind of minimum standards. This is obviously for people aged between 18 to 64. If you're a little bit older than that or younger, that is completely fine. You should kind of still be aiming for these numbers, maybe a little bit less if you're a little bit older, but that's always what you're capable of doing. Okay, so let's just go through some of these. So 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity. So what does that actually mean? So moderate intensity means an intensity that you're able to maintain for a little bit longer. Okay, so maybe that could be like a long walk, maybe a 20-30 minute walk. Okay, and that's obviously those 150 minutes to 300 minutes are split throughout the week. Okay, so when you're on paper that might seem like a lot, but when you split it across 7 days, it doesn't seem like that much. If you don't have the time to do 150 to 300 minutes of moderate aerobic activity, if you go to the blue box, it shows 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous activity. And what does that mean? So that means something which is done at a little bit more intensity. So let's say you're working moderately hard on a walk. If you go on a run, you'll be working vigorously. Okay, so again, split that 75 minutes to 150 minutes up in between the week. And then this here, this yellow box, okay, So muscle strengthening activities at a moderate or great intensity 2 or more days a week. Okay, and what's that actually involve? So that's going to be some of the movements that we do in the classes. So things like the lunges, the squats, all of them would be considered muscle building activities. So things that are going to move your big muscles and put force through them and trying to rebuild that muscle. With that as well, with exercise, we don't just get a muscle stimulus, we get a bone stimulus as well. Okay, what does that actually mean? So our bones get stronger as we exercise, just like our muscles. And of course, as we age, we get a decrease in bone mineral density. So we want to try and keep our bone mineral density as healthy as possible. Okay. On this next slide, we're going to discuss how you make goals. Okay, and goals are really important to help stay motivated when you're trying to start off exercise again. Okay, so this acronym, I'm sure some of you have probably seen this before, is the SMART acronym, and it basically stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time specific. Okay, so starting with the S at the very top, so specific. That refers to an individual goal that you want to achieve. So obviously, make that goal specific to you. Don't worry about anyone else's goals. As I've said previous times before, this is an individual kind of journey for you, and your goal should be specific to what you want to be able to do. Okay. Secondly, how are you going to measure your progress? Okay, so if you want to walk maybe a mile, 2 miles, how are you going to measure that you're able to get there? Okay, you're also going to measure distance, and you might slowly increase the distance over time. Okay. Achievable. Make sure your goal is achievable. Okay, you don't want to set a goal which is, too far ahead of you at this stage. Okay, because that will only demotivate you when you're not making enough progress before that. It's really important to make kind of short-term, mid-term, and then long-term goals. Okay, and you just focus on each goal step by step as you move forward. Okay, relevant. So trying to think, why is that goal relevant to you? Okay, so for example, you want to make sure it's relevant in terms of managing arthritis, or do you want to make it relevant towards maybe just trying to be a bit more active? Okay, so just thinking about it that way. And then time specific as well. Okay, with that, we don't want to set ourselves too little time so we don't achieve the goal and then get demotivated, but at the same time we don't want to set it too much time, if that makes sense, because that doesn't create accountability. We want a perfect time. You want to read through your goal and think, is it specific? Yes, great. How am I going to measure it? You're going to measure it by counting the steps or counting minutes in terms of walking wise. Is it achievable? You should always say yes to that. Relevant, obviously relevant, and how it's going to benefit you. And then time specific. Don't say you're going to achieve a goal in 2 weeks if you're not going to do that. Okay, try set it and make it realistic so it holds you accountable. Okay. And then moving on to the next slide. So this is really important. Okay, this is something that maybe isn't discussed enough. Exercising safely. Okay, and that means you want to slowly build up the frequency and the intensity. Okay, we don't want to start focusing on all these great exercises and then we cause other issues down the line. Okay, we want to slowly increase. Okay, and I always say, your body is really good at knowing when it needs to stop. We're just really bad at listening to it. Okay, so take that time, listen to your body. Okay, if you start to get new symptoms or new pains elsewhere in the body, it's a pretty good sign that you're doing too much. Yes, a bit of pain is acceptable, but we want to differentiate between the muscle pain that we experience when we're exercising, between the kind of bad joint related pain as well. Okay, warming up and cooling down correctly is really important. Okay, so obviously in the warm up, if you're going to go on a run or like a fast brisk walk, we want to start a little bit slower and build into it. Okay, and like we do in the classes, we go through a quick warm up before we kind of start the heavier, slower stuff as well. Okay, and then of course staying hydrated. Okay, we'll discuss this one a little bit more in the diet and nutrition episode, but please, before and after, and if you can during exercise, you want to stay adequately hydrated to avoid cramps, to avoid any pain, dizziness, nausea. Okay, that concludes the week on exercise. If you have any questions in any of the things that we covered or any of the things that we covered the week previously, please bring them next class. I'll try my best to answer them for you. In the meantime, obviously look after yourself. Hope you all have a good week, and I will see you soon.